Cannabis store owner sues Lancaster County District Attorney over Delta-8 product seizure. Adam, could we roll the tape on this one?
Adam is queuing it up.
Feldman is here at the American Shaman store with Mason to buy some CBD doggy treats for his older dogs.
There you are, my dear. Thank you very much.
It's one of a number of cannabis products for sale here.
We've tried Geico Flex and a bunch of other stuff, and this seems to work better. Gives a little bit more pep in their step.
But the store at the Tanger Outlets in Lancaster County no longer carries any Delta-8 THC or Delta-10 THC products for pups or humans.
They left all the rest of them.
The store shared this photo when the Lancaster County Drug Task Force raided the store and 42 others in June and seized almost $300,000 worth of product.
This should serve as a message to shop owners.
The district attorney says Delta-8 and Delta-10 are Schedule I controlled substances and are illegal to possess or sell in Pennsylvania.
Further manufacture and sales will result in criminal charges.
The store owner was surprised since the 2018 Farm Bill legalized cannabis plants with less than 0.3% total THC, the compound that causes a high, but didn't mention Delta-8 THC. It's found in very low levels in the hemp plant, but CBD can be synthesized into high levels of Delta-8. The owner and two other plaintiffs are now suing the DA in federal court, claiming it was an illegal search and seizure.
There was no warrant, there was no court involvement. There was just a memo from her office stating that she believed that Delta-8 THC, not anything else, just Delta-8 THC, was unlawful to sell.
The Lancaster DA wouldn't talk about the lawsuit.
I cannot comment on any ongoing litigation.
But she said earlier she has received complaints that minors were buying the products.
I think that she probably was getting complaints from probably the police officers that were starting to encounter this.
In my opinion, it is a gray area of the law.
Attorney Patrick Nightingale is a local director for the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. He says right now there's a strong argument that Delta-8 THC is legal.
Moving forward, it's going to be imperative that Harrisburg and the General Assembly address this one way or the other. Is it legal? Is it not legal?
But just across the river here in York, the American Shaman store is selling Delta-8. It has a whole host of products inside.
All of our Delta-8 joints are on the bottom.
Store manager Cheyenne Forsyth says the products are very popular.
Delta-8 normally seems to run out of our shelves first before all of our other products.
Robert Champ plunked down more than $26 for a 10-count bottle of Delta-8 gummies.
I don't feel like going through the process of getting a medical card, so I use it for sleep and anxiety, some pain issues.
How does it work?
That works fairly well. It works fairly well, I'd say.
Jay Whittle admits there are bad actors in the cannabis business, some selling products made to look like popular snacks and candy.
I myself am offended by those types of products that look like Lay's potato chips, and they're not. That's not what we do, and that's not what the suit is about.
He says he has lost tens of thousands of dollars in business since the raid. Susan Shapiro on your side, WGAL News 8.
Well, Doctor.
So I'm not going to read the article. Is basically just a transcription of that story, but I think it's a very interesting kind of problem that they're dealing with here, which is that basically there is no federal guidelines around what you can do with CBD. Can you chemically convert it into Delta-8? Well, if you look at the Controlled Dangerous Substance Act, under Code 7370, Delta-8 THC is mentioned by name. So this district attorney is absolutely spot on correct. Delta-8 and Delta-10 THC are controlled dangerous substances that are Schedule 1. Now, if you're selling THC, but you're regulated under the state's regulatory program, now you're kind of in that Cole memorandum kind of thing, which is like some loosey-goosey thing, which is long as you're abiding by the cannabis production standards rolled out by your state regulatory authority, you're okay, and we'll look the other way. But this is clearly, this guy's the CBD shaman, so clearly this is a hemp shop. Clearly everything that they're selling here is hemp derived. You see flour on the shelf there, Jason, right?
Yep.
Looks just like regular nugget, right?
Looks like THCA to me.
how would you know when that stuff is being shipped from wherever to wherever? How would you know in a roadside pullover whether that's cannabis or hemp? You know, you'd go by whatever the COA says, but that's just some piece of paper that who knows what it really is. I mean, the point is that all this is an artifact of prohibition. If that fellow with the Orioles ball cap who they were talking to, if that guy had access to good quality cannabis, right, Jean? He wouldn't need this CBD. He wouldn't need the Delta-8. He wouldn't be on this program being interviewed by a reporter asking him, well, does Delta-8 work or not? I don't know. You're the experiment. Tell us, does it work? Oh, it kind of works, okay. If that guy can get good quality Delta-9 cannabis, he doesn't need Delta-8, right? Are we all on the same page on this, right?
Yes.
So I think that this is just, and a shout out to my friend Patrick Nightingale, who's the attorney head of Normal there in Pittsburgh. Hey, Patrick, how you doing? I think he's watching. He's a great attorney, probably the best attorney in the state of Pennsylvania. And, you know, Pennsylvania is a great state with great cannabis traditions. In William Penn's Pennsylvania, you were taxed if you did not grow hemp, okay? Because what did Her Majesty, the Queen of England, need to conquer the world? She needed a navy, a fleet of ships. And what pushes ships across the ocean? Sails. And they need ropes. And they need the oil. So everything that they needed was in hemp. And Her Majesty, the Queen of England, told the settlers of Pennsylvania to grow hemp. Right, and we all know this. So along the river that she's talking about, where on one side they closed the CBD shop and on the other side, that is the mighty Susquehanna River, one of the great rivers of the East Coast. And it was along the banks of the mighty Susquehanna that the hemp industry here in the United States was born back in colonial America. And it's a shame that New Jersey is legalized, Delaware is legalized, all the states around Pennsylvania has legalized, except for Ohio, I think. Ohio has now, right? So everything around Pennsylvania is legalized. But, you know, here we are back in Pennsylvania still arresting people for smoking weed because it's a pretty profitable business for law enforcement. Mm-hmm. So I'll stop there, but anybody else have any other opinions? This is Dr. Mark from the shores of Lake Champlain up here in beautiful state of Vermont. What do you guys have to say about this wonderful story?
Man, I'll tell you what, just another day to be in cannabis, a surprise raid, boom, bam, pow. Welcome to cannabis. Welcome to cannabis. That is basically what happens, and that's all it takes is some of these types of DAs to get some type of notion that the law is on their side, and that's basically all it takes to be able to do this type of stuff. So I am not surprised at this at all, but I'm definitely excited to see what ends up happening because I think it's going to have rippling effects across the country.
Well, I'd be curious, like, so this was a 10-pack of gummies that guy brought for $26. So that's $2.60 a gummy. Let's just assume they're like 10 milligrams. What does a pack of gummies go for in Cali? Like a 10-pack of gummies?
Guess what? I don't buy gummies, doctor.
Delta-8?
I wouldn't know what Delta-8 costs, but THC gummies, but like $50, $60 with tax.
Okay, so this guy is spending a whole lot less money and getting a hemp-derived product. Why would he go to the dispensary and pay more? Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and he said in the interview that he didn't want to go through the trouble to get a medical card, and that's why he buys the gummies. So I thought that was pretty telling. You know, he identifies as a patient, but is going to this
because of
shop.
Over-regulation and over-taxation.
He is most likely going to go to the trap once they do legalize because of the prices.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I mean, I'll tell you what. I'm really fascinated by this case, and I'm want to see where it goes because it is definitely going to shake up the hemp market. Because if this case is successful and they're justified in their raid and their action, they're going to continue this action within that county to all those stores, and this will happen throughout the state because the state's not going to back any of them up. And then you're going to have other similar states that have similar no laws on the books in regards to how these products are sold or whatnot, taking similar stances by all these other different DAs all throughout those counties, all throughout the country.
And use this as legal precedent.
Exactly.
So they're
exactly
saying, look,
right.
We're not making up anything.
Exactly right.
Here's the legal
We
precedent.
already have a legal precedence. Here we go. This is it. This is it. This has happened. The judge ruled this way. Da 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 da. We're going to proceed in this way until we're overturned by a higher court.
Well, Jason, this is similar to the story that we had on a couple months ago on High and 9 News, where we talked about the lawsuit, right, from the Southern California producers who were suing the hemp-derived producers that were bringing stuff into California and underselling, sandbagging the market. You know,
Is that Cookies, right? Yeah, I think that Cookies was leading that lawsuit.
Yeah, there's a bunch of people involved in that, but I can tell you one thing that, you know, I've said this before, as long as there's a prohibition anywhere, there'll be a black market everywhere or a legacy market everywhere, right? So it doesn't matter that it's not even in California. A lot of stuff that gets produced in California ends up in Manhattan in all those shops, you know?
I mean, everywhere.
So,
I mean, it ends up everywhere.
101, supply and demand.
Yeah.
New Trap City.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know, there's a rational solution to this. It's simply do the studies on Delta-8 and HHC and get the information rather than acting, you know, they did this with Delta-9. They called it a poison.
Yep.
And, you know, the government said not to use it anymore. So they're doing that with Delta-8. Maybe they're correct. Maybe we shouldn't be using Delta-8, but let's do the appropriate study, find out, rather than, you know, leaping before we know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, the difficulties with doing that in human beings is it requires institutional review board over those kinds of studies. And not only are they extremely expensive, but they're on very, very long timelines. And it's difficult for cannabis companies who are, again, struggling to just hit their bottom line to be able to afford such work. I'll point out in terms of HHC, there's a group called Colorado Chromatography that has done a lot of sort of nothing in humans. It's all preclinical stuff, because to do it in humans, it just requires just a much longer timeline, a much larger checkbook, and a whole lot of other things that we're just not going to be able to address here. But the point is that you're absolutely right, Dr. This is something that they need to figure out. But if people have access to Delta-9, if they have access to good, high-quality cannabis, I will contend that the market for recreational synthetics will go away.
Yes, and
I believe you. I agree with you. I'd love to let the game be played. Right now, there's probably enough data from people who have consumed Delta-8, you know, illegally, legally, to give us some hint as to whether it's safe or not. But nobody's actively collecting that data. We would know a lot by now. You know, this can be gotten from surveys. It's not as accurate as an IRB-approved study, you know, and that can be done afterwards, but we can at least get some general hypothesis going.
Well, Dr. T, what we found, so I'm collaborating with Professor Alan Howlett at Wake Forest University at School of Medicine, and what we found when we looked at ISO Delta-8 THC, which is one of the major byproducts that's formed in the chemical conversion of CBD into THC, is we found that it has a lot of the same cellular responses in imparting typical cannabinoid-like behavior into neuronal responses. But here's the crazy thing. It's not doing so by hitting CB1. It's hitting something else. So we don't know what receptor it's hitting, but it's turning on, you know, elevation of cyclic AMP, the turning on of ion channels, the same things that cannabinoids do, but it's hitting a different target. So I think this speaks to the level of research that we're going to continue to do this. So we're looking at all of the major byproducts that are in Delta-8 THC, and I think we're the first group to do this. So very important research. We hope to get NIH funding through NIDA to actually study this, because we think it's a very important problem currently.
Oh, my suggestion is look at the crosstalk between 5-HT2A, you know, the serotonin receptor, and the CB1 receptor. That might be an interesting, you know, reason why you're seeing that.
Awesome suggestion. I'll put it in our grant.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Look at that, making history here at High and 9. We got